Ethan Hayes was sinking into the coffee shop's sofa, a piece of furniture so soft it felt like it was trying to swallow him whole. He had the distinct sensation that his entire lower body had packed its bags and left home. He dug 2 fingers into the small of his back, kneading the muscles there. The ache was a deep, throbbing reminder of having been run over by a herd of wild animals. "Dude," he said, his voice raspy. He stared blankly at Leo Garcia, who had just sat down across from him. Ethan's eyes had the hollowed-out look of a man whose soul had been vacuumed out. "If this keeps up, I'm not going to make it." He leaned forward conspiratorially. I think I might die young." Leo, who had just taken a sip of his latte, nearly did a spit take. He set his cup down carefully and studied Ethan's face. It was a handsome face, usually, but right now it was draped in a thick, gray veil of exhaustion, accented by a pair of dark circles that belonged in a zoo's panda exhibit. "What happened to you? You're a newlywed, man. You look like you've been hauling cement bags on a construction site. Or did your new wife suck out your life force?" "Suck out my life force." Ethan let out a dry, humorless chuckle, the sound of a man who had narrowly survived a natural disaster. "Huh, that'd be getting off easy. My wife. She's on a mission to grind my bones to dust and boil them into soup." His wife, Dr. Evelyn Reed, at Stanton University's College of Engineering, just whispering that name, especially in the context of the arcane, high-level courses she taught, was enough to make undergrads burst into tears. Her students had nicknames for her: Dar, Doom, or more bluntly, the Dragon Lady. In her class, you didn't dare ask for an extension or skip a lecture. Hell, if you sat in the front row, you felt compelled to submit a written request before you could even sneeze, lest you draw the attention of her icy eyes. Eyes that felt like they could freeze your very soul. And her exams? They were the stuff of legend, a new circle of academic hell. Every year, a fresh chorus of wails echoed through the department as her failure rate consistently topped the university charts. The unofficial student motto was, "Better to piss off the dean than to get on Dr. Reed's bad side." But who could have ever guessed? Ethan thought, his heart swelling with a bitter sense of injustice. Who could have known that this cold, formidable goddess of academia, feared by all, would shapeshift into an entirely different creature the moment she stepped through their front door? If any of her students saw her at home, they'd think she was possessed. "Honey," her voice, a velvety purr that could melt bone, echoed in his mind, each syllable a tiny, irresistible hook. "I'm hungry. I want you to make me your famous slow-cooked ribs." That was the tame stuff. The real terror began at night. She'd slide up next to him, her eyes clouded with a lazy, predatory heat. Her warm breath would ghost across his ear, her voice a sweet, sticky whisper. "Darling, I was reviewing some new research for my class today. The literature suggests this particular method has a remarkably high efficacy rate. Shall we verify the findings?" Before the wedding, Ethan had been a legend in his own right, a gym rat with chiseled muscles and stamina for days. He was confident. On their wedding night, he'd even felt a surge of triumphant swagger, a "just you wait, I'm about to rock your world" kind of bravado. The result? There was no result. Or rather, the result was Evelyn pinning him to the mat and wiping the floor with him. The result was a 15-day marathon. 15 consecutive nights. Professor Reed's thirst for knowledge, her dedication to bridging the gap between theory and practice, was exercised to its absolute limit. When she exhausted the material she knew, she simply moved on to the terrifying phase of live, on-the-spot learning. Ethan felt like a piece of raw material being hammered, stretched, and tested to its breaking point. His once proud, physical reserves evaporated before his very eyes. The alarm bells in his back and hips grew more shrill with each passing day. Now, sitting in the coffee shop, he could feel that familiar, grinding ache starting to throb deep in his spine, a phantom pain reminding him of last night's dedicated service. He picked up his bland Americano and took a long, hard swallow, trying to beat back the profound exhaustion seeping from his marrow. "What have I done to deserve this?" He sighed a long, mournful sound as he set the cup down. "I'm really hitting my limit, man. My back. I feel like it's one wrong move away from snapping in half and filing for divorce from the rest of my body." Leo's shoulders were shaking as he tried to stifle his laughter. "Oh, give me a break. You're living the dream, and you don't even know it. You're the guy with the feast complaining he's full while the rest of us are starving. A goddess like Evelyn? Do you know how many guys would kill to be in your shoes? This is what we call a champagne problem." He dragged out the last words, his face a perfect mask of "poor you, with your amazing, hot, brilliant wife." Ethan shot him a massive eye roll, too tired to argue with someone who clearly couldn't comprehend the ice-cold reality of his situation. He rubbed his lower back, his mind already churning. He needed reinforcements. That's it. A power tonic. The wisdom of the ancients. He had to get some. He'd secretly get himself back to full strength. And then he would be the one teaching his wife a lesson. A few days later, on a bright and sunny Saturday afternoon that felt anything but bright and sunny to Ethan, he moved like a spy on a covert mission. At least, until he could decisively win a battle against his wife. He clutched a brown paper bag from a small herbalist shop, the words Patriarch's Power Tonic stamped on the side. The rich, earthy smell of medicinal herbs radiated from it as he tiptoed through the front door. The living room was empty. He breathed a sigh of relief and, hunching over, made a beeline for the kitchen, planning to stash the evidence in the darkest corner of the pantry. "Honey," a clear, sweet voice floated out from the study without warning. Ethan froze solid. The hand holding the bag was suspended in midair. He looked like a comical statue, stuck on pause. Slowly, stiffly, he cranked his head around. "I thought she was at the university. How'd you get back so fast?" He panicked. "This is bad." Evelyn was leaning against the study's doorframe, her gaze fixed unerringly on Ethan's guilt-ridden posture. At home, she was dressed in a soft, cream-colored cashmere cardigan, her long hair casually pinned up, a few loose strands framing her forehead. The sharp, intimidating edge she had on campus was gone, replaced by a warm, harmless aura. But her eyes, Ethan knew those eyes all too well. Those slightly upturned eyes were sparkling with an all-knowing, deeply amused light. "Sweetheart, you're back already? I thought you had a faculty meeting this afternoon." Ethan tried to divert her attention, subtly moving the hand with the bag behind his back. "It was canceled, so I came home," Evelyn said, her eyes now locked on his fidgeting hands. "What's it you've got there?" A faint, knowing smile played on her lips as she padded toward him in soft slippers. The light, clean scent of her perfume, mixed with the smell of old books, suddenly felt overwhelmingly oppressive to Ethan. He instinctively tried to hide the bag more securely behind him, a movement so quick he almost threw out his fragile back. It's nothing. Just, some, local delicacies." His mind raced, desperately searching for an explanation that didn't involve dangerous keywords like stamina, exhaustion, or back pain. Evelyn was already standing in front of him. She took a delicate sniff of the air and then let out a soft, "oh," drawing out the sound with playful understanding. What a strong herbal scent. She reached out a slender finger and, with pinpoint accuracy, poked the paper bag Ethan was failing to conceal. "Patriarch's Power Tonic? Honey, are you feeling like, you're having trouble keeping up the pace lately?" She tilted her head, blinking her large, luminous eyes. Her expression was one of pure, innocent concern, as if she were genuinely just asking about his dietary habits. Boom! A tidal wave of hot blood rushed to Ethan's head. His masculine pride was facing an unprecedented existential threat. "No, I can't admit it. Never. It's over if I admit it. How could I ever face her again? Admitting it means I'm always on the bottom. How can I maintain what little shred of authority I have left in this house? Who can't keep up? What pace?" Ethan's voice shot up several octaves, his neck rigid with a blustering, defensive energy. "Evelyn, I'm warning you, don't talk crazy. I'm fine. I'm great. Never been better. This stuff." He gestured vaguely with his head. "This stuff is for you. Yes, to help you recover. Seeing you work so hard grading papers all day. I worry about you." The more he talked, the more frantic he became, his face turning red. His eyes darted everywhere except at Evelyn's, which seemed to pierce right through his flimsy excuses. Evelyn didn't say a word. She just watched him, the smile on her lips deepening with a "please, continue your performance" sort of amusement. The look made his skin crawl and a cold sweat prickle on his back. After a long moment, she finally hummed in agreement and reached out. Before he could react, she deftly plucked the heavy, practically screaming with guilt paper bag from his stiff fingers. "So sweet of you to worry about me," she said, her voice soft as silk as she turned toward the kitchen. "Well, I worry about you too. I'll brew this tonic for you myself. Just wait." Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. He wanted to protest, to snatch the bag back, but watching her slender yet unyielding back disappear into the kitchen, the words died in his throat. "It's over," he thought in despair, feeling his back ache with renewed intensity. Sounds soon emerged from the kitchen. The rush of the faucet, the soft clink of a ceramic pot on the stove, the rustle of herbs being poured out. Before long, an incredibly complex, overwhelmingly pungent medicinal odor, mixed with the questionable tang of something vaguely like animal offal, began to spread like a chemical weapon. It aggressively occupied the entire living room, its tendrils even creeping toward the bedroom. Ethan sat on the sofa, feeling like he was on pins and needles. The smell was inescapable, drilling into his sinuses and making his head spin, his stomach churn. It didn't feel like he was waiting for a health tonic. It felt like he was awaiting the arrival of his own personal torture device. Every second was an eternity. After what felt like a century of agony, Evelyn finally emerged, holding a white porcelain bowl. The bowl was filled with a liquid so dark and thick it was almost black, steaming ominously. The soul-crushing aroma had reached its absolute peak. She wore a gentle, wifely smile as she approached, carrying the bowl as if it were a cup of divine nectar. "Here you go, honey. Drink it while it's hot. It's most effective that way." She held the bowl directly under Ethan's nose. The combined assault of earthy, bitter, and indescribably gamey scents slammed into his nostrils. Ethan's stomach clenched violently, and a wave of pure, physiological revulsion washed over him, shattering his resolve. He shot up from the sofa, the sudden movement jarring his aching back so badly he winced in pain. "No, I'm not drinking that. You can kill me, but I won't drink it." Ethan clutched his nose and scrambled backward until his back was nearly flat against the cold wall, his face a mask of tragic, do-or-die defiance. "Take it away. Get away from me. Evelyn, I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly fine. I don't need this stuff. Stop looking down on me." Evelyn stood her ground, holding the bowl. She watched his puffed-up, rooster-like defense of his pride, not with anger, but with a flicker of amusement. She didn't press him. Instead, she just raised a delicate eyebrow, her gaze sweeping over his face before returning to the terrifying black liquid. "Honey, for the sake of your health, and for the sake of our happiness, you need to be a good boy and listen." A few seconds of suffocating silence followed. Then, to Ethan's horror, a slow, deeply sensual, and utterly dangerous smile spread across Evelyn's face. A cunning light flashed in her beautiful eyes, so fast it was almost a hallucination. He watched, mesmerized, as she lowered her head to the bowl. Her full, red lips parted slightly, and she took a small sip of the dark concoction. Ethan's eyes widened, his mind a complete blank. He had no idea what she was planning. Was she going to drink it herself? No, that was impossible. In the next second, Evelyn moved. Holding the bowl, she advanced on him, her hips swaying with an unhurried, undeniable pressure. One step, two steps. Ethan had nowhere to run. His back was flush against the wall, the chill seeping through his shirt. Evelyn rose onto her toes. With her free hand, she reached out, her warm fingers wrapping around the back of his neck with a gentle but firm grip, forcing his head down. Their eyes met. Hers were shimmering, glistening with moisture, like deep pools shrouded in a fine mist, beckoning him to fall in. Her lips, slick with the dark tonic, looked fuller and brighter than ever. Then, she tilted her head up, and her soft, strangely medicinal-scented lips met his slightly agape mouth with unquestionable force. MMPH! A loud buzz went off in Ethan's head. His brain shut down completely. The bitter, gamey, searingly hot liquid, mixed with Evelyn's own uniquely sweet essence, was forced into his mouth in a way he was powerless to resist. He tried to fight back, but his tongue was expertly captured and guided, and the damnable tonic slid down his throat before he knew what was happening. An indescribable, violently complex flavor exploded in his mouth and throat. Evelyn pulled back slightly, a faint, dark smudge lingering on the corner of her lips. She watched him choke and cough, his face scrunched up in a mask of pure agony, his soul seemingly having departed his body. She ran her tongue lightly over her own lips, her eyes filled with a satisfied, sly glint. Her voice was a low, seductive purr, scratching at the edges of his sanity. "So, how was that? Goes down a little smoother this way, doesn't it?" Ethan coughed, so hard tears streamed from his eyes, the ghastly taste still laying siege to his palate. He stared at her face, so close to his at that devastatingly beautiful smile, and a wave of grief and fury surged through him. "It's over. I fell for it again. This woman, she did it on purpose." She knew he was too proud to admit defeat. She knew he couldn't resist this kind of attack. This wasn't giving him medicine. This was the prelude to another round of knowledge exchange. It was a death sentence. "Come on, honey, let's finish up. We don't want it to get cold." With that, Evelyn took another large sip and lunged for his mouth again. After a 30-second kiss, the mouthful of medicine was finally administered. The once bitter tonic now seemed less so, mingled as it was with the sweetness of Evelyn. Then, Evelyn casually placed the half-full bowl of poison on a nearby end table. Like she had no bones, she pressed her body against his again, her soft arms wrapping around his waist. Her fingers found the sore spot on his lower back and began to press, gently but firmly. She sighed contentedly, nuzzling his neck, her breath warm and fragrant. See? It's already working. Your back doesn't feel so stiff anymore, does it? Ethan went rigid. He felt the imported tonic he'd been forced to swallow instantly transform into a wicked fire, roaring straight down to his loins. Only one thought remained in his mind. This is the end of me. The battle raged from the afternoon into the dead of night. Late, the world was silent. Ethan, supporting himself against the wall like a wounded soldier retreating from the front lines, shuffled into the living room, his legs trembling, his soul threatening to float right out of his head. The lights were off, save for the faint glow of a streetlight filtering through the window. He fumbled for his phone, which had been tossed into a corner of the sofa, his fingers shaking. He opened WhatsApp, found Leo at the top of his contacts, and pressed the microphone icon. Using the last ounce of his strength, he spoke, his voice a hoarse, breathless whisper filled with accusation and despair. Leo, listen to me. This woman, she's doing it on purpose. She's a siren, a human Vitamix in a professor's body. I'm about to be disassembled. I can hear my bones creaking. God, what did I do to deserve this? Not 10 seconds after he sent the voice note, his phone screen lit up. A reply from Leo. Not a text. Another voice note. Ethan tapped it with a trembling finger. Leo's booming, crystal-clear voice, dripping with undisguised contempt and envious rage, erupted from the speaker. Are you kidding me, Ethan? It's the middle of the night. I swear to God you. Keep pretending. Yeah, keep playing the victim. You hit the jackpot, and you're acting like you're suffering? Being pampered and nursed back to health by a goddess. And you're over here, crying me a river? Have some shame. Seriously, if you want to brag, just brag. Another voice note came through immediately. You should be thanking your lucky stars for a wife like that. The rest of us can only dream. Screw you. Ethan roared into the phone, his voice cracking. Then his hand went limp, and the phone fell with a soft thud onto the thick rug. He slid down to the cold floor, his back against the sofa, and stared at the ceiling with hollow, hopeless eyes. Across the room, the master bedroom door was ajar, a warm light spilling out. He could faintly hear Evelyn humming a cheerful, carefree little tune. She wasn't just fine. She was in high spirits. The door swung open, and Evelyn emerged, her face flushed and glowing. She smiled when she saw her husband on the floor. Honey, why are you sitting on the floor? You need a shower after all that exercise. Tell you what, how about I help you wash up? It's over. Ethan thought miserably. This darkness. There was no end in sight. His back, his kidneys, his pathetic shred of dignity. All of it was held in the palm of that dragon lady's hand. And in that dragon lady's desk drawer, he remembered with a lurch of terror, there was a brand new, brightly colored book, Advanced Intimacy, a practical guide to exploration. Ahem, that's okay, honey. I can wash myself. You must be tired too. You should go shower first, Ethan said, his voice weak. Oh, don't be silly. You're the one who's exhausted. Of course I have to take good care of you. Come on, we'll shower together. With that, Evelyn strode over to him, pulled him up by his arm, and half-dragged his stumbling form into the bathroom. Evidently, she wasn't finished yet. In the bathroom, she initiated a new round of activity, accompanied by Ethan's cries of protest. It was 3 a.m. by the time they finished showering. Ethan lay in bed, dead to the world. Beside him, Evelyn snuggled into his arms, a look of pure, blissful contentment on her face. The next day, Ethan didn't wake up until noon. He felt as if he'd been run over by a freight train, repeatedly, all night. Every bone in his body groaned in protest. He managed to pry open eyelids that felt glued shut. The sunlight stabbing through the window sent a jolt of pain through his skull. The space beside him was empty. The comforter was thrown back, and the faint, clean scent of Evelyn lingered in the air, mixed with a hint of old paper. A sense of dread settled in Ethan's stomach. Something was wrong. The woman's energy level was inhuman. After an epic knowledge marathon that had started yesterday afternoon, continued through the night, and ended at 3 a.m., a marathon that had nearly cost him his life in the shower, how could she possibly have the energy to be up and about? A dark premonition settled heavily on his already abused lower back. Holding his breath, he ignored the feeling of his body falling apart, and, like a seasoned spy infiltrating enemy territory, silently slid out of bed. The moment his feet touched the floor, that familiar, grinding ache flared deep in his spine, so intense he winced and almost collapsed. Bracing himself against the wall, he shuffled to the bedroom door. He peeked around the frame, his eyes scanning the living room like a fugitive. The living room was quiet. Empty. No sound from the kitchen, either. Ethan's heart rate lowered a fraction, only to immediately spike even higher. The door to the study was cracked open. His scalp tingled. Tiptoeing, not daring to breathe, Ethan used the wall for support as he painstakingly crept toward the study door. He pressed his eye to the crack. His heart instantly stopped. Evelyn was in there, just as he'd feared. She was wearing the same soft, cream-colored cashmere cardigan from last night, her hair loosely pinned up, a few strands curling against the nape of her neck. Bathed in the warm glow of her desk lamp, her profile was soft and serene. She looked like a portrait of domestic tranquility, except for the book in her hands. That book. That damned book. Ethan's eyes nearly bulged out of his skull. He'd recognized that garish, intensely suggestive cover even if he were reduced to ash. Elite Techniques. Unlocking Partner Potential. It was thicker than the last one, Advanced Intimacy, a practical guide to exploration. And the cover was even flashier. The subtitle, printed in a smaller font, seemed to leap out at him, sending black spots dancing in his vision. My wife is too amazing. I refuse, but she insists. Even worse, Evelyn was holding a pen. Her head was slightly bowed, her expression as focused as if she were grading a doctoral thesis. Every so often, she would tap the tip of the pen on the pages of that wicked book, making a soft, scratching sound. To Ethan's ears, that sound was more terrifying than the Grim Reaper flipping through the pages of his ledger. His calves began to cramp violently. A chill shot up from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. It's over, it's over, it's over. That woman. She's it again. She's prepping her lesson plans. The last introductory textbook had nearly wrung him dry. This elite version, was she planning to grind his bones into powder and drink it with her morning coffee? At this rate, not even a gallon of that power tonic could save him. Alarm bell screamed his head. His body reacted faster than his brain. He instinctively tried to pull back, to pretend he had never been there. Too late. In his panic, his hand had gripped the doorframe too tightly. His knuckles, white from the pressure, made a faint cracking sound. In the profound silence of the study, it sounded like a thunderclap. Evelyn's slender fingers, holding the pen, froze. As if sensing his presence, she slowly, deliberately, lifted her head. Her gaze locked precisely onto Ethan's, catching his horrified, half-hidden face in the crack of the door. Their eyes met. The air solidified for half a second. Then, the corners of Evelyn's mouth began to curve upward, little by little. In the warm lamplight, her smile was breathtakingly beautiful, but it made every hair on Ethan's body stand at attention. Honey. Her voice was husky with sleep, soft and syrupy, like a hook coated in honey. You're awake? Ethan flinched, his hand nearly slipping off the doorframe. His throat was sandpaper. He swallowed hard, his voice cracking. Igriagajia. Awake. You're up early, sweetheart. Huh. Hiv. His dry laughter sounded more pathetic than a sob. Evelyn ignored his babbling. Her eyes drifted back down to the gaudy textbook in her hands. Her long, pale fingers, with an almost elegant laziness, stroked the colorful, suggestive cover. Her fingertips lingered, perhaps intentionally, on the gold-embossed words Elite Techniques. Ethan's gaze was glued to that malevolent finger, as if drawn by a magnet. He could feel his own heart stuttering in time with its slow, torturous movements. Evelyn finally looked up again, her eyes swimming with a playful light as she smiled at him. Her tone was as casual as if she were discussing breakfast options. Sleep well? It's the weekend, you know. She paused, tapping a fingertip on the page. The soft tap landed like a hammer blow on Ethan's frayed nerves. Perfect timing. Her voice grew even softer, laced with a sweet, tempting poison. This new research material just arrived. It looks much more interesting than that last one. The Practical Guide to Exploration. She tilted her head, her eyes sparkling with that all-too-familiar look of intellectual curiosity and predatory mischief. The data points are much denser, and it seems to be far more. Hands on. Boom! The string in Ethan's mind labeled sanity finally snapped. Hands on. An image flashed in his mind. Him, strapped to a laboratory table, while his wife used this elite manual as a guide to verify its findings on him, over and over again. His kidneys throbbed with a phantom ache. A colossal, overwhelming will to survive surged through him, crushing all notions of pride, dignity, and back pain. Honey. Ethan's voice was thick with tears. He forgot about trying to act casual and practically threw himself into the doorway. He clasped his hands together, bowing frantically in her direction, then dropped to hug her long, beautiful legs. That, today. It's the weekend. A beautiful day. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. He was babbling, his eyes darting around wildly, grasping for any available lifeline. We should research something else, right? Let's look at something else. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He was like a drowning man flailing in the water. How about we research the stock market? Look at the S&P 500. All that green is so environmentally friendly. Or we could analyze the global political situation. The complexity of Middle Eastern geopolitics. That'll keep us busy for a while. If not that, we could go study that new burger joint that opened up down the street. I hear their fries are exceptionally crispy, extremely worthy of study. He spoke faster and faster, his suggestions growing more and more absurd, until he was practically shouting. If all else fails, we can research how to give CPR to that dying cactus on the balcony. Evelyn, I'm begging you. This incoherent, desperate tirade of alternative research topics seemed to amuse Evelyn. She put down her pen, leaned back in her chair, and folded her hands over the cover of Elite Techniques, calmly watching her husband's spectacular survivalist performance. She didn't speak, only narrowing her beautiful eyes, a profound, meaningful smile playing on her lips, as if to say, go on. Let's see what else you can come up with. The study fell silent, filled only with the sound of Ethan's heavy, ragged breathing. He stared at her, his heart pounding like a drum against his ribs, feeling like a fish on a chopping block, awaiting his fate. Finally, Evelyn moved. She raised her right index finger and tapped it gently against her chin, feigning deep thought. She drew out the sound, her gaze sweeping over Ethan's pale, panicked face before landing back on his eyes, which were filled with terror and supplication. She spoke slowly. These alternative research avenues you've proposed. Ethan's heart leaped into his throat. They sound. Evelyn paused, watching the hopeful light flare in Ethan's eyes, before her lips parted to deliver the final two words. Incredibly boring. The light in Ethan's eyes winked out. He deflated like a popped balloon, barely managing to hold himself up with the doorframe. However, Evelyn's tone shifted, and she watched him tense up again, the amusement in her eyes deepening. She stood, gracefully moving around the desk, and began to walk toward him, step by step, radiating that familiar aura of pressure that made his scalp crawl. Ethan instinctively tried to back away, but his legs felt like they were cast in lead. Evelyn stopped in front of him. The soft light outlined her beautiful silhouette. She tilted her face up. She was so close he could smell the pleasant scent of her skin and see the unabashedly playful and predatory glint in her eyes. She reached out a warm finger and poked him in his tense chest. Her voice was light and soft, almost like she was pouting, but her words hit Ethan like a sledgehammer. You're right about one thing, honey. It is the weekend, and the sun is lovely. So how about we research a new recipe? I just learned it. I was thinking, we could have fish tacos for lunch. Ethan was about to breathe a sigh of relief, but in an instant he understood. Was this about actual food? Evelyn smiled sweetly, her fingertip tracing a slow path down his chest, heading directly for his tormented lower back. Her finger finally landed on its target and pressed, not too hard, not too soft. Ah! Ethan yelped as if he'd been electrocuted, nearly jumping out of his skin. The exquisite agony in his back shot straight to his brain. I think today, honey, is perfect for... Evelyn ignored his cry of pain, her smile as sweet as ever, her fingertip now drawing lazy, wicked circles on the aching muscle. Conducting some alfresco knowledge verification. She leaned in closer, her warm breath ghosting over his ear, her voice a sticky, sweet whisper. The book says that sunlight can have a fascinating, accelerative effect on certain physiological responses. It's a topic that deserves some deep investigation. Don't you agree, honey? Ethan, agree? Agree with his own execution? He looked at the devastatingly beautiful face before him, now whispering demonic proposals, and felt the soul-destroying pressure of her fingers on his back. A tsunami of grief and despair crashed over him, drowning him completely. Sunlight, alfresco, verification, my life is over. He could already see it. Himself, laid out like a piece of salted fish drying in the sun on their balcony chaise lounge, while the insatiably curious Professor Reed used him as a lab rat, holding her copy of Elite Techniques, conducting a series of comparative experiments on sunlight-accelerated responses in broad daylight for all the world to see. This life, it was truly an endless, inescapable darkness. His back, his kidneys, and what little remained of his dignity as a human being, all of it was crushed in the grip of that dragon lady, and was about to be subjected to a new round of rigorous testing under the bright, unforgiving sun. Ethan closed his eyes in misery. The sun today, he felt, was exceptionally bright, exceptionally piercing, and exceptionally malicious.